How you guys doing today? It's Anthony Ganji. Welcome to another episode of Tear Talk. Guys, we have an update in the Scholtes case. So we got 9 reports, 1 death, and a daughter's fight for justice. And we're talking about Scholtes' oldest daughter. If you're not familiar with this case, in the blistering heat of an Arizona summer, a tragedy unfolded that would expose not just the failings of one man, but perhaps the failings of an entire system meant to protect children. It was July 9, 2024 in Marana, Arizona, a day that reached a scorching 109 degrees. Inside his home, Christopher Scholtes sat drinking beer, playing video games, and scrolling through pornography. Outside in the driveway, his 2-year-old daughter, Parker, sat strapped in her car seat, trapped, silent, and slowly dying. She remained there for nearly 3.5 hours after the car's air conditioning shut off, somewhere between 20 and 30 minutes. They believe it's 20 minutes. And by the time she was found, she was gone. I got this message someone sent me real quick. Someone says about the air conditioning, they said he and his wife said they knew it shut off after 30 minutes, but they lied. Police repeatedly tested the air conditioning in the car, and it was around 20 minutes every time. The reason none of his daughters prior had died before, because he has a history of supposedly keeping the kids in the car, is because he never left a child younger than 7 for hours before. And so the oldest child in the car had always figured out how to restart the air conditioning. A 2-year-old couldn't do that or even get out of the car seat. He was so dumb because he only meant to torture them, not kill them. That's powerful. That's how people feel. Investigators would later uncover text messages from his wife, Erica Scholtes, sent before that tragic day. Messages that read like desperate warnings. I told you to stop leaving him in the car. How many times have I told you? The text made clear this wasn't the first time. This was a pattern, one that had already been ignored by the system long before Parker ever took her final breath. So the criminal case and suicide. So here's where we're at right now. By October of 2025, prosecutors had reached a plea deal. Christopher Scholtes pleaded guilty to second-degree murder and child abuse, admitting his role in Parker's death. The plea carried a recommended sentence of 20 to 30 years in prison, time he would never serve. And guys, by the way, there's so much more to the case that I covered, including a trip to Hawaii when he was out on bond, and Erica sticking up for him and also requesting for him to go on that trip with him, go on a trip with the family to Hawaii during this bond and being released, looking at this type of time. On the night of November 4, 2025, just hours before he was due to surrender, Christopher took his own life. He left behind a wife, 2 surviving daughters, and a legacy of tragedy that was only beginning to unfold. So, guys, if you want more details of all this, you can check out the other videos, but I want to move forward with the his oldest daughter's complaints. The civil lawsuit that followed, but even before his death, something was already in motion. October 28, 2025, just 1 week earlier, Christopher's 17-year-old daughter, I believe she turns 18 this month, but right now she's still a minor. His daughter from a previous relationship filed a civil lawsuit in Maricopa County through her guardian, Lindsay Eisenberg. The complaint named both Christopher and Erica Scholtes and accused them of intentional infliction of emotional distress, assault and battery, negligent infliction of emotional distress, fraud and conversion, and child abuse under Arizona law. So now she's being pulled in. She claimed, this is the 17-year-old, she claimed that between 2016 and 2021, while she lived under their roof, she endured years of cruelty, physical, emotional, and psychological abuse that left scars long after she left the home. So if you go back to 2016, she would have been about 8. The teen alleged she was locked in rooms, called degrading names, denied food, and made to feel worthless. Her guardian later told reporters the girl described being drugged and sexually assaulted by her father, a claim not spelled out in the court filings itself, but shared publicly to capture the full picture of her trauma. And beyond the abuse, the lawsuit alleged something calculated, that Christopher filed a fraudulent conservatorship in 2020, taking control of his daughter's government benefits and using the money for himself. According to the complaint, Erica participated in or at least enabled the behavior, maintaining what the filing called a violent and unsafe home. The lawsuit doesn't specify an amount in damages, but it asks for something more meaningful: recognition, protection, and accountability. It also seeks custody of the 2 surviving younger sisters, children still living in the same home where Parker once did. So these are his kids with Erica, I believe. So when this young girl turns 18, she is asking for custody of those kids. Interesting. Is that even possible? What are the means like for an 18-year-old girl? And I believe I'm being told that his older daughter, the 17-year-old, has a daughter herself. So there'll be 3 kids. So she must have had a daughter at a young age. So you have 9 DCS investigations and no action. This story feels like it came out of nowhere. It didn't. So between June of 2014 and December of 2020, Arizona Department of Child Safety investigated the Scholtes home 9 times. Each time reports were filed, each time allegations were made, and each time the agency closed the case as unsubstantiated. That means that there's not enough proof either way, be honest with you, prove that it happened or not. You know, it's different than substantiated or unfounded. Substantiated would be there's enough evidence, it's proven. Unfounded is the allegation's a lie. What was said wasn't truthful. But in this case here, it's just unsubstantiated, which means it can't be proven either way. So, you know, at that point, the home could still pose a risk. There's just not enough evidence to say that. Here's what those records show. So in June of 2014, she alleged that Christopher slapped. It was alleged that Christopher slapped his daughter and squeezed her arm hard enough to leave bruises. Investigators said no marks were found. Case closed. January 2017, another report, this time of physical abuse. The father admitted spanking but denied injury. Case closed, unsubstantiated. September of 2017, allegations that Christopher slapped his daughter until she lost her breath and that Erica neglected her medical care. No corroborating evidence. Case closed. Look at the gap. Let me see. So far, these are. So June 2014 was the first one. Then it jumps 3 years later almost to January of 2017. Then another one, September of 2017, which we just talked about. Then you got February of 2019, allegations of verbal and emotional abuse, that he screamed at her, called her a mistake and a piece of garbage. Case closed. December of 2019, later that year, report that he blocked her from receiving therapy. Christopher told DCS he couldn't afford counseling. Case closed. April of 2020, report that the couple kicked the girl out of the home. When DCS checked back, she had returned. Case closed. September of 2020, emotional abuse. The girl said she wanted to die after repeated verbal attacks. The case was open and later closed. No action taken. Girl says she wants to die at that age. Wouldn't that be a risk? Surprised there's no action there. Maybe a therapist. November 2020, more allegations of name calling and humiliation. Case closed. And December of 2020, allegations that he refused to fill prescriptions and behavioral health referrals. Investigators verified the medication had been filled. Case closed. 9 times over the span of 7 years, the same child reached out for help, and 9 times the reports ended the same way. Child safe in the father's home. By April of 2021, custody was transferred to her biological mother. That marked the end of her time in the Scholtes household. And the same year, she says the abuse finally stopped. I'm going to address another perspective from that a little bit later on that I just want to toss your way just to be fair, but I'll get to that a little later. A systemic failure. Looking back now, the paper trail is devastating. Each DCS report viewed in isolation might have seemed minor, a slap, a cruel word, a misprescription, but taken together, they paint the picture of a dangerous and deteriorating environment. The daughter's lawsuit doesn't just accuse her father and stepmother, it accuses a system of indifference, a pattern of inaction that allowed abuse to escalate unchecked. Her complaint states, despite repeated warnings, DCS failed to take any protective action. And in hindsight, it's difficult to argue otherwise because less than 3 years after that final investigation, Parker, her younger half-sister, was dead in the same household that the state had repeatedly labeled safe. So let's see, a daughter's new battle. After she left her father's home, the teen lived with her biological mother until her mother's death in 2024. Now under the care of her guardian, she says she's seeking not revenge, but accountability. Eisenberg, the guardian, said the girl wasn't shocked when she learned her father had taken his life. Instead, she felt something closer to peace, relief that the cycle had ended and that she could finally speak it without fear. Today, her fight continues in civil court against Erica Scholtes, the stepmother who still faces allegations of participating in or enabling the abuse. So this whole thing has opened up the home to a lot. Today, her fight continued. Okay, got that. The young woman goals are clear: justice for herself, protection for her sisters, and exposure of what she calls a decade-long failure by those who should have intervened. Now, the timing and motivation. I just want to put this out there. Bear with me, just to be fair. The timing of the lawsuit has drawn attention. Filed just days before Christopher's death. Some wonder if it was strategic, because again, he can't speak. Not that we'd want to hear from anyway at this point, but just got to put it out there. A move designed to hold him publicly accountable before his sentencing when media coverage was high. Others believe it was something deeper, a teenager who finally felt safe enough to tell the truth once her father's grip on her life began to loosen. Either way, the filing has opened old wounds and new questions. If even one of those prior DCS reports had led to real intervention, would Parker still be alive today? There's also a thought that she could have just out there. I don't think it's the case, but I just want to put it out there that she wanted to be with her mother. And that could always be a concern too, that she wanted to be with her mother, so she caused whatever she could to cause conflict there. So eventually they would send her back to her mother. And that's eventually what happened, it looks like in 2020. And then again, these concerns come back up after he died, but you still have Erica. So now the complaints are going against Erica. So Erica is going to have to probably provide statements, and she's probably going to get challenged at this point. So what happens next? In the months ahead, the court will examine the evidence under the civil standard of proof, not beyond a reasonable doubt, but simply whether the abuse was more likely than not to have occurred, so it's less standard of to be proven. If her claims are upheld, the results could be sweeping. Financial damages awarded to the daughter, custody changes for her surviving half-sisters, and renewed investigations into DCS patterns of unsubstantiated cases. I mean, okay, so it's either happened or could not have happened, but what does that mean? I mean, what do? Do you err on caution, or do you just still keep on protecting those parental rights? Family reunification. Already, Arizona lawmakers and child advocacy groups are watching closely, seeing in this one family story a mirror of much larger problems. So here's the hard truth. In the end, this isn't just a story about one father's crime or one agency's oversight. It's about a culture of disbelief that can surround victims, especially children, when their abusers wear the mask of stability. 9 times the system was worn, 9 times it looked away. That's what they're saying. Now, through this lawsuit, one young woman is forcing everyone, the courts, the state, and the public, to look back and finally see what was missed. How many chances do we get? Her guardian has. Okay, so her guardian asked, how many chances do we get before someone dies? And that perhaps is the question this case now puts before all of us. Guys, if you like the content, feel free to donate me a cup of coffee. I have it in the description, as well as also on the top of my page. And as always, guys, more content to come. Stay safe.